Loophole. By its very definition, we get caught up as intended by design. In the end, this circuitous route through which our lives must be navigated brings us back again and again to beginnings that no longer exist. Like striving to avoid potholes, only to more precisely find our way to tire bulges and coffee stained car seats. We circle back, try to navigate past that which impedes success, breeds contempt, breaks will, and kills dreams. Loopholes, like potholes, are unforgiving, not intending to steady our course. Their only function is to circumvent what reasonably would be expected. Loophole. Ha. Avoidance is their mocked mantra. Like their cousin, pothole, they get you in the end, despite how much you fight to steer clear of them. We can each overcome labels of any kind of hole that the world can put on us, but pothole or loophole, in life, we must learn to be prepared for both.
License and registration, he consents your acquisition.
On the head of the fallen
Remind me that
angel.
this is a team effort. Remind me to keep going.
Time, my shirt.
Did you know that your hands came with a ripple
Unraveling
effect?
like silk.
We got the same dreams. I mean, blood, sweat, and tears win by any means poetry.
Sway, look at me. Is a piece of the pie too good for me?
Some may call it rock the mic. We call it poetry.
Hello, welcome to Sojourn with Words. I'm your host, Sistah Joy, right here on CTV, bringing poetry to Prince George's County, Montgomery County, and now, because we're virtual, we're bringing poetry to the world. Now, CTV and Sojourn with Words have been around for, oh my gosh, over 15 years, but we are excited to be continuing to bring the excellence of poets from the local community and sometimes beyond. Today, we have with us one of the phenomenal poets and spoken word artists who has been making, beautiful noise, beautiful poetry, beautiful spoken word. And I'm speaking of Orville Walker, also known to some as Orville the Poet. Now, Orville is with us. Let's see, I won't call him a transplant, but why don't we say he was born in Tacoma Park, Maryland, by way of Jamaica. Yes, Orville is known for his charismatic, confident, goal-driven mindset and uses his passion for poetry. Now, he's used his pen to get him through life experiences. He uses passion for the arts to raise awareness, speak vivid truths, and uplifts his community. Before there was poetry, however, there was his passion for playing basketball with hopes of playing in the NBA. Alas, that was not to be, and it is for our great fortune that we have with us in the poetry community everywhere. I'm speaking of Orville the Poet. Now, before we talk about Orville to any great length, we have to understand how connected he is to family. Yes, he is has the support of his family and the community, and he's performed throughout the United States as such in such venues as the White House with the Obama administration. He's performed at all of the busboys and poets, anyone in the DMV, DC, Maryland, and Virginia community knows that busboys and poets is the place that you want to be. And Orville is no stranger to any of those venues. Of course, several art galleries. He's a special at weddings. So we want to make sure that we welcome with great love and admiration, Orville Walker, also Orville the Poet. Orville, welcome. It's your turn to let them hear from you. What would you have our guests to know about you that I haven't covered in that quick, 2-minute bio?
Wow. First and foremost, I don't know if you can see my face. I'm just smiling. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. What don't you know that wasn't covered in the bio? So I also have my own open mic that I ran and operated for. We'll be celebrating 9 years this June. Called Pure Poetry DC. It's online right now because, of course, we're in the pandemic. But Pure Poetry DC, all one word, on Instagram. You can catch us every first Wednesday of the month at 8 p.m. sharp. Doing this, doing what we love, doing poetry, sharing my heart. So that's the only other thing as far as that goes. Because
Okay.
I'm sure we're gonna chop it up and get to the meat and potatoes here soon. But that's the only other thing I would mention.
Okay. Well, now, when we talk about the arts in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, and we in this community we call it the DMV. So the arts in the DMV, what does that mean to you, and what is it that you strive to bring to the arts in the DMV?
Well, when I think about the arts of the DMV, there's a lot of things that encompass the arts. You have music, you have spoken word, you have poetry, you have liturgical dance, you have the visual arts, paintings, sculptures, you have visual works like films, videos, pictures, photographers, videographers. All of that to me encompasses the arts. And one thing I strive to do is practice and promote cooperative economics. Right? That's how we all win. So cooperative economics says if I have this event and I can hire or have people in and around my circle or in and around this demographic and area to be a part of it, then I will. And then if these people have something, then they'll hire me. And those people, and so forth and so on. So therefore we're
Collaborative.
sharing the love, we're getting the love back, we're creating jobs, everyone's learning, and all of this energy and art is being shared with everyone, and specifically people of color. So, cooperative economics is something I definitely push.
Okay, okay. Well, now, when we talk about you and poetry, what started it for you? What brought you to poetry?
Poetry was something I feel like it was always around. It was always in my vicinity. Kind of like, how Michael Jordan was always around basketball. You know what I mean? His older brother played, his dad kind of played. My mom was like, write a poem. A relative of mine had retired. We were going to a family function. She just said, just as a matter of fact, I don't know, write a poem or something. And at the time, I was always in love with reading. So also, what a lot of people don't know, from an early age, I was always in a higher reading grade or English class than my grade. So, and that happened because my mom forced me to read books. My mom,
Yay
we
for you.
would, yeah, for real. We wouldn't have book reports due, but I always had a book report due.
Okay.
And I had a problem with my mouth in class. So that was my punishment. So I just had this organic love for reading and words and what you could do with them. And that's really how it started. Just mom, like, hey, write a poem.
Well,
Like,
now you talk about the significance of reading, and that is something so often I hear persons who say that they're struggling with their poetry. They want to be a poet, they want to develop, and yet when I ask them what they're reading, They say,
Nothing.
well, I really don't read poetry. And it just knocks me flat on my back because I've never understood, poetry is an art form and it has to be crafted. Never would anybody think of building a house without training. Never would anybody think of disassembling or repairing a car without training. And yet there are some that believe that the only thing you need to do to be a poet is to, have a moment of inspiration. And that is something that, it's not true. There's
Well,
so much more. How would you respond to the issue of crafting poetry?
well, I think it's, to each his own. I do agree with you that there's a lot of people that expect a certain result, but if they're honest with themselves, haven't really put forth a effort or a plan. It's okay to expect things from something you're doing, but if you don't put a plan in place, then you can't really have this expectation. So, I really think it deals with, you know, comfort level and what you really want to actually do with this art form. There's a lot of people who, for them, it's just a hobby. I just want to spit this at open mic tonight. I had this on my chest, and that's good for them, and that's awesome. That's great. That's wonderful. But then there's people who want to take it a little more serious and want to make this how they earn a living. And if that's you, then there's different steps and levels that you have to take. You know, Michael Jordan knows who the greats are that came before him. Langston Hughes, I'm sure, knew who came before him. Nikki Giovanni now still pays homage to those that came before. So if whatever you're doing in whatever medium of art, at some point you have to study and really put some roots in whatever craft you're trying to, reach another tier in, because that's the only way. You've got to study and prepare and seeing what's already been done. Because if you don't know your past, you're destined to repeat it. And, that may be the difference between being that standout. I've never heard this before. Oh, or he did that. I've heard that, So, but if you don't know, then you don't know. So I don't fault anyone for the level of, you know, interaction or intensity. But if you're watching this, if you're listening, and you want to be a poet, and this is how you want to earn your living, you better know who Maya Angelou is, and Langston Hughes, or Conte Cullen, and these people. You can't go further than if you don't go.
Dunbar, yes, so many grades. When you think about where, this taping is happening during February, which is Black History Month. I don't know when it's going to air, but anyway,
Okay.
this is a time of much reflection in the Black community. And when we talk about what's happening in the world, certainly Black America has made a statement that the world is responding to at this time. What do you think about poetry with regard to the issues of the day and the opportunity and the responsibility of poetry with regard to social issues, social justice, or what have you?
So first and foremost, I know this is my interview. I know you want to talk to me, but I would be remiss if you asked me that question and I didn't mention this name. Amanda Gorman has just pushed spoken word poetry forward easy a decade. This young woman with the most eloquence and skill and pizzazz and poise. And I was sitting at home in awe. So when I think about how important spoken word is in social justice, just go look at that clip.
Yes.
And if you don't know, Amanda Gorman is who did the inaugural poem for Joe Biden this past inauguration not too long ago.
Yes.
Wow.
And in addition to being the inaugural poet for 2021, this election, she is also the only national
National.
youth poet laureate of America. So, I mean, yes.
So look, we don't even need to say how important it is.
Okay.
They said how important it is. I feel like that actions speak louder than words. That spoke louder than anything I can say right now. Poetry and art, period, reflect life. And as artists, it's our responsibility to be the reporters of our situations, of our communities, of our neighborhoods, of our families, and to point out the detritus and maybe help get to a solution. We may not have the solution, but just like Tupac said, I know if I keep pointing out the imperfections, someone will find an answer. And I think that's our responsibility as artists. And as we see, we've made a stance.
Yes.
I don't know, I can't speak to any specific art form, but if you look at poetry since quarantine, since this pandemic, as a whole, we're saying some things.
Yeah.
Poetry is no longer the appetizer like a lot of people think. It's the main course.
Exactly.
Stay the course. Pay attention.
Yes. During this time of pandemic, have you found yourself writing differently, or have you found yourself writing more, or have you found yourself writing less? What has your response from a poet's perspective been to this pandemic?
I would say at first, I felt this just amazing responsibility to write every single second of the day. And then that changed into, well, me writing every single day, is this the best I have to offer every single day? And then I thought about the steps that I could take so I could share and give the best I'm able to. So for me, that looked like taking time for myself, working on my mental health, reading a lot more, saying less, getting more sleep, writing more things down. So when it is time for me to present and to pour out in this next phase of our reality or whatever it may look like, I am able to show up 100%. Because if I'm honest, and Sistah Joy, you've known me for years. If I'm honest, since I lost my mom, that's something that I was not consistently doing. I was not checking in with me. I just would fill my schedule up with things to do. But these things and hanging things I need to work on were still there. And I tell you what, this break has highlighted all of those things. So that's what I would say. I write when I'm inspired. I'll write things and I have exercises I do. But if I feel like now I'm forcing it, I'll leave it, come back to it. I never want to force it, So
Right. And
that's my process has been.
I so agree with you on that. This time of pandemic, COVID-19 has caused so many of us to look at where we are and what it is that we're doing and why it is that we're doing what we're doing. We have to be stewards of this temple, this physical body. If ever there was a time that we realized just how frail it is now. And
Absolutely.
As we watch the staggering numbers on the nightly news, and frankly speaking, I encourage anyone to turn off the television periodically. Don't be glued to the stats, because that will take its toll. But as poets, we are impacts. We really are. And we respond to what is happening around us in ways that some people may not necessarily understand. And in order for us to give what it is that we give, it has to sink deeply into our soul. And there is damage done when this type of filtration happens repeatedly. So we have to be caregivers of self before we can try to heal the world through messages of comfort and uplift and all those things that we know are essential. I mean, that is part of our responsibility as poets, but we have to be able to care for self. So thank you for that point.
I just threw a pen at you. I don't know if you've seen that, but that was bars. I was throwing pens at the screen.
Thank you. Orville, as I said during the introduction, you are so connected to family, and I know that your work often. I had the privilege of meeting some of your family a couple of years ago, and that was a beautiful family gathering. Can you speak about moments like that in your life as a poet and what it means to you? How does that affect you as a poet?
Oftentimes people ask me how I'm able to just keep going. It seems you're always doing something. I've grown up. I've been blessed to be a part of a family where hard work wasn't rewarded. Hard work was the standard. Hard work is what got my mother and father here from Jamaica. Hard work is what enabled them to raise 3 boys and all of us moving how we're moving right now. So hard work in my family has really fueled my poetry. I remember when I first started, Sistah Joy. My mom said, "What do you want to do?" I was in school. I was going to college, and I remember like, "Nah, I'm done with school." And I remember going home and telling my mom, and she was like, "What? You want to do what? A poet? Okay, that's cool. But now you need to be introduced to the real world. So I need this for mortgage. I need this for the light bill. I need this for the gas. I need this. And that really got me ready. And she didn't try to discourage me. She actually fueled me. But she showed me that, hey, if this is how you want to make money, you need to work at it this hard because this is how much things actually cost. Right? So that work ethic, that love, that dedication, that's what I saw growing up from my mother and father. My mom showed me what happens when you work hard. And my dad showed me, hey, work hard, then play hard. Those are lessons I learned from my mother and father without them even talking. I listened with my eyes for a long time. And then when I got to a certain age, they were like, hey, this is what you need to know. So my family and my parents really, really fuel a lot of my art. I have a very clear sense of my culture, where we come from, where I'm from, my place in it, and whose I am and who we are. So when you have a clear sense of those things, it's like the perfect conditions for a plant. Hey, when you have nice sun, water, dirt, till it's gonna only grow. And I am the summation of my mother and father and family and friends loving and pouring into me. So yeah, that's
Okay. Okay. So summation. As we wrap up, I want to talk about the poets who have poured into you, those poets that you are most connected to. I know you ran off a litany a few minutes ago about some of the greats, but are there poets whose particular messages speak to you that are a part of your daily walk?
absolutely. As a matter of fact, man, I wish I had this book right here by me. But you know this, brother, Kariga Bailey.
Oh yes, yes.
Kariga Bailey.
I gotta get him on the show.
Look, he's in another orbit now. I don't know.
I know.
We got to send him a text. But he speaks to the Black experience like not most. His art really resonates with me. This isn't someone who I'm just a fan of. This is somebody I love and is a brother of mine and has been there for me in some very dark times and in high times as well. But his art speaks to the Black experience like not a lot of artists do. Also, I would say, man, Black Ice. Black Ice is who I was a fan of, I mean, for as long as I can remember. And then I had the pleasure of meeting this brother and him featuring at my show, Pure Poetry DC in DC some years ago. Phenomenal brother. Go listen to a poem. If you're familiar with, HBO Def Poetry Jam, he's all over that thing. Black Ice, phenomenal artist. And there's so many others.
Let me ask another question, if I may. Certainly, there is much happening in America today. And sometimes what I try to do is to step back just as a citizen of the world. When we look at America, we are pretty much the new kids on the block as a country. America is like a couple of hundred years old. Mm-hmm. There are other countries that are thousands of years old, cultures that are thousands of years old, and they bring with them to their life experience for their citizens a whole different dynamic. Not to say theirs is right and not to say ours is wrong, but when you look at what's happening with the division in America right now, some would say growth pains, but what do you attribute the current status of what's happening? Certainly, January the 6th, when the insurrection happened, so many people were looking to see what was going to happen in this country. What are your reactions to those experiences?
You know what? I think America's getting a fine look at America. A lot of people will tell you, oh, it's never been this bad. It's always been this bad. Technology is caught up now. Now cops have body cams. Now everyone has a cell phone or smartphone or something you can record on. So now we have Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and Zoom and Teams, and in seconds we can share things with thousands, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, millions of people. So remember, Rodney King happened but then we've seen that example time and time and time. So as far as the disconnect here, this is just what we've experienced now being put in on a grand scale. Now everyone can see what you were telling your coworkers. Now everyone can see, yeah. It's not now it's not weird that by the age of 18, I was pulled over 25 different times with no cause. Now it doesn't seem so, far-fetched because you have proof now. There was
Well, actually, before you get wound up again, because I'm
sorry.
Okay.
You got me started.
I tapped in.
Got you.
So we're gonna have you back. That's all there is to it. We're gonna have you back. But this is Orville Walker, known to some as Orville the Poet. Clearly, he's got a lot going on up there. And we're so blessed to have him right here on Sojourn with Words on CTV, the premier poetry channel in Prince George's County and now the world. Thank you so much for being with us. We are honored. We are blessed by all you have shared. We're going to hear some poetry by Orville Walker, and you'll see what all this has been about. So thank you, Orville, for being with us here on Sojourn with Words. We clearly will have to have you back again, and much continued success, much continued blessings to you and yours. And let's take some time to hear poetry by Orville Walker, known to many as Orville the Poet.
Poems and prayers. Poems and prayers. I got to be honest with y'all. These aren't just poems. These are prayers. I've been sharing my fears for years, hearts, wants, and desires in front of strangers on stages who may not ever listen or notice my stuff fire, who be taking selfies, or even worse, boo you when you speak. There's been nights I wanted to finish these verses about my mom in poems more than I wanted something to eat, more than I wanted to sleep or any accolade or trophy. And honestly, if you haven't seen me perform on stage in the last few years, My guy, you don't know me because I'm moving different lately. There's a change on how I've been delivering. I sat in my room, realized I have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so, you got to do some more listening. I started checking things off my to-do list, and enemies started doing some more whispering. Watch out for those folks who are parenting your rough draft, but never assist you on the ascension to your final copy. I realized and woke up one morning with admiration on my breath. Hey, only you can stop me. These ain't poems. These prayers. I write poems and stuff, but I also record music in the booth. I was bragging to a mentor. I have like 100+ poems. He said, oh, yeah? And how many of those poems have you told the truth? These aren't just poems. These are prayers. Before I come and talk to y'all, at home I talk to myself now. Like, hey, making sure you uplift the room's crown does nothing internally for you now. Because when they ain't around, ain't no loss like letting you down. So make sure every verse is your best. Spit truths and not just for the sake of rhyme. Because if you sound dope on stage but lie to yourself in your work, all of this is a waste of time. Passion should be the only P word in your mind when writing down thoughts. Spit it because you love it. Don't spit it for no thoughts. Deliver every word like your mom gonna hear. And even if no one applauds, make sure in your heart is peace there. Because this peace here has the potential to bring peace here. Maybe youngins coming and putting down their peace here. Even in the middle of the night with this peace here, look, with this gift, you have the chance to do something special. Remember to stay prepared and snatch opportunities. No one's going to let you. And to make it to 35 years old, that's something special. Because at 38 years old, they killed young enough to block with something special. Remember to grab every single year, opportunity, moment, and minute. Would you be happy with yourself right now if your life ended? Could you honestly say you put in the work necessary to be great and never pretended? Hey, you listening? That's poems and prayers.
I love it. I love it. Oh, yes. I was
like, I'm gonna mess her up with a new one today.
No, I was like, okay, don't move, don't distract. Thank you, Orville. Oh my gosh, how fabulous to have you
Thank you.
right here on Sojourn with Words. Oh.
When we get back outside, hey, listen, I have a ticket with your name on it as soon as we're back outside. You're gonna be front row at the second thing we do. You laughing, but I'm serious. And however we need to get you there, whether we need to put you in a little bubble by yourself or something, we're gonna get you there safely.
Thank you. Okay, well, I believe that concludes today's episode of Sojourn with Words. I'm your host, Sistah Joy. This phenomenal poet that you've been listening to is Orville the poet, Orville Walker. Orville, God bless you. Thank you so much. And Likewise. We look forward to having everyone join us again. Whenever you're ready for poetry, poetry is ready for you right here on Sojourn with Words.
I wish I could put bubble bath in Harriet's tub, man, until she felt no more pain. Then I would shine Malcolm X's shoes so good as if the bullets never came. Then I would tap George Washington Carver on the shoulder and carve him the woman of his dreams. Then I'd personally thank County Cullen for picking up his pen and tell him that because he started, riders like I were able to begin. Then I would ask Arthur Ashe when he was swinging his racket, did he see Jesse Owens dash across the finish line? And all the racket he caused. And Hitler hated that brother so much he even mentioned him in his memoirs. Then I get a tour of the entire scene and revere those brothers, the airmen of Tuskegee. Then I would high-five Michael, Martin Luther King. And we would sit and watch his dream unfolding on DVD. And of course, I rewind to my favorite Muhammad Ali. You know, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Watching him go to Africa, Nigeria, and Ghana, visit with freedom fighters like Mandela, and witnessing all the Marcus Garvey banners. Then we would finally witness a time where music rekindled your spirit and your soul was reborn. And we would sit and watching Oz Lena blew like a horn, and it was lights, camera, action when Mahalia Jackson took the mic. Then we would see a time where Black minds were emerging out of their cocoon, thanks to the diligent work of Mary McLeod Bethune and Harry Belafonte. We later laughed and cried to the words of Bill Cosby. We were always impressed with Denzel Washington's work with the youth. And we thank God every day for Isabella because she freed Sojourn us so we could see the truth. And looking at Obama and the journey he took and the feeling of pride as a racist, he put his hands on the book. I mean, the greats from the past and the efforts well spent. Who thought in our history we'd ever have a black president? Great things are yet to come, and the past is evidence. Black history isn't a day, month, or week. It's a mindset.